Hi, my name is Denise Nathanson. I'm the principal here at Emma C. Smith School, and I would like to welcome you to our campus for the educational rally. I've always believed that it takes a village to educate a child, and that the members of the village need to be passionate and unwavering in their dedication. Lessening this dedication is simply not an option. Today, you will hear from parents, community members, and students voicing their concern about education cuts. You will also hear from Senator Tom Torlakson, the chair of the Senate Select Committee Schools and Community and a prior science teacher, Senator Ellen Corbett, a prior professor at Chabot Las Positas Community College, and Senator Don Parada, Livermore's representative in the Senate, and a past teacher for 16 years who has always prioritized K-12 education in his work with the legislator. In his final year in the Senate, Senator Parada is fighting hard to oppose cuts and hope, along with Senator Torlakson and Corbett. We hope at the end of the day that you will use your voice to make a difference in education. And I would like to present now one of our parents, Denise Glasgow.
Thank you, Denise. Good morning.
Good morning.
Senators. Afternoon, sorry. Senators, board members, parents, members of the community, and other dignitaries and the press, thank you for coming to Emma C. Smith today. Actions speak louder than words. You are here, and we appreciate that. My name is Denise Glasgow, and I'm the proud parent of two boys, 7 and 9 years old, and in 2nd and 3rd grade, and they attend Smith Elementary. I am active on the PTA board, and I volunteer several times a week at the school. Education is a top priority in our household. It takes precedence over everything else. Our children need to be able to give back to society and get the job they want while competing in a global economy. It is not acceptable to balance the budget by taking away funding from education, which is the very foundation of good citizenship. We need to get our priorities straight. We work hard for our children. At our elementary here alone, at our school, our parents last year volunteered over 19,000 hours. We have fundraisers to fund basic necessities, and Livermore passed a parcel tax. The Livermore School District made tough and unpopular decisions several years ago by closing 2 schools. Their actions will help us get through this next school year, when each of our students will potentially lose $700 in state funding due to these proposed budget cuts. We lose a little less because we get a lot less to start with from the state due to equalization issues. But that is a whole other topic. Right now, the chaos in our school district is behind the scenes at the state level. It's like a school play. At the school level, all the actors are doing a good job. Even when they mess up their lines, their work is still appreciated. Lots of staff are doing the hard work to make sure that everything is done right. But behind the scenes at the state level, there's major chaos. Our play in Livermore will go on for now, and next year our play will go on for now, but without adequate funding from the state. We hope to get through this year only because our district had to make our cuts several years ago, which essentially buys us a little time right now. But watch out. 1 year from now, if these cuts go through, our play won't be funded because our district will have exhausted their reserve funding that had closed the gap. We won't have the resources, and our show will be over. We won't have the resources to make sure that everything is done right. When we can't buy textbooks or staff the library or our science program, and we can't keep our campus clean because the custodial hours have been cut, and we can't keep our children safe because we can't hire enough playground supervision, when our teachers get pink slips and our class sizes go up, these are things that volunteers can't fix. We urge you to please, please stay engaged. It is not acceptable that our state is #1 in prison spending, while we rank among the 10 worst states in school funding. Prisons are going to get an increase to their budget next year. We educate over 6 million students in California. Do you know that is nearly 13% of all school-age children in the United States? Yet we have gone from being a top performer in education to one of the worst in less than a generation. There are other ways to balance this budget other than on our children's backs, but it is going to take some work to get there. It is like dropping pebbles in a bucket. If we drop enough pebbles in the bucket, we will fill it up together. Write a letter, send an email, make a phone call to your representatives, be informed to have a voice. Keep the pressure on our legislators to do what is right, and drop your pebble in the bucket. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce another Smith parent and someone who consistently and effectively advocates for your children's education, Mr. Dave Curtis.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Dave Curtis, and I'm honored to be here today to speak on behalf of my 3 girls attending Livermore schools in kindergarten, 3rd, and 6th grades. I've been involved in our local schools since 2002, when as a first-time kindergarten parent, I began attending school board meetings. That was also when a fiscal crisis was jeopardizing class size and other critical educational programs. Since that time, I've come to know our educational system as a member of the Livermore School District's Policy Committee, co-chair of the 2004 Parcel D Measure D Parcel Tax, and past chairman of the Chamber of Commerce's Education Committee and parent volunteer in the Tri-Valley Education Collaborative. Through these experiences, I have firsthand knowledge of the quality of education that's being delivered to our students in Livermore by our dedicated teachers, the staff and administrations at the school sites, and our district personnel. We're also very fortunate to have a tremendous leadership team being led by Superintendent Brendan Miller, as well as a very competent and fiscally responsible school board. I agree with our prior speaker, Denise Glasgow, in her description of the turmoil that lies behind the scenes that is often too difficult to recognize at the school site level or seen by the entire community. However, for the sake of our children, we must take notice of this crisis that is facing our schools. If the governor's proposed budget becomes an economic reality, it will become a disaster for our school systems. A child only gets to be in a given grade one time. If the quality of education fails that student at that moment, it's lost forever. And yet your child will still be expected to meet mandated but underfunded achievement standards. You may not be aware that our local school districts are required by law to respond to the governor's proposed budget. Those are the cuts you're seeing. By law, they must take action on his proposed budget. However, please resist challenging the local school boards for having to make these difficult cuts. Instead, we must generate our energies in raising concerns at a more appropriate level. And it may seem like a daunting task to make an impact on a multi-billion-dollar budget crisis here in Livermore, California. However, we have done this before. We have increased the level of funding and thereby the quality of education for our children. Livermore came together in 2004 in support of our children's education by passing Measure D by an overwhelming 70%. Measure D was successful not because of the efforts of any single person, but rather the collective efforts of everyone in this community. We must now once again work together to show our support of our children and their future, to continue to put the pebbles in the bucket. If there had to be only one thing that you come away with today as our first and most important step in helping our children, it's that we must absolutely ensure that the minimum funding guaranteed by Proposition 98 is continued. Prop 98 was a voter-approved amendment to California's Constitution in 1988. And has since protected K-12 educational funding. In order for the governor's proposed budget to pass, it will require that the legislators also vote in support of suspending Proposition 98 by a 2/3 majority. By ensuring that Proposition 98 is not suspended, it will eliminate nearly 25% of the proposed cuts to education. This one thing will equate to an increase in the education budget of over $1 billion. Now that, to me, is a great place for us to start. Let's take a small portion of those 19,000 plus volunteer hours here at Smith and some from all the other schools, both within our community and throughout the state, and email, phone, or write letters to our legislators and our governor, sharing with them your concerns and requesting them not to support the suspension of Proposition 98. You can quickly double that effort by spreading the word to your friends, neighbors, and community members. The contact information for the legislators and the governor is in a handout that was at the table in the front. Please ensure that you have it, but the website you need to go to quickly and easily get their contact information is leginfo.ca.org. That's LEG for legislator, info.ca.org. And the governor, fairly easy, gov.ca.gov. Now I'm very proud to introduce our next speaker, Max Weiner, who is a fourth grader here at Smith Elementary School, and he knows firsthand what it's like to be a student in a classroom and how these changes may affect him. Let's give a big hand for Max.
Good afternoon. I'm Max Weiner. I'm here representing the student body of Smith School. I do not think the governor should cut our school budget. If the governor cuts the budget, things like music, gate, PE, newspaper club, and more will be gone. These programs are important to the kids in my school because they help kids learn about different subjects. These programs help make learning fun and they help create more rounded students. Kids in my class especially love PE because it is fun and it gives us exercise. Kids in the newspaper club like it because it is a fun activity and it teaches us about journalism. The governor's proposed budget could cut some of my favorite classes like Science Lab. Without Science Lab, kids like me will not be able to have a good time doing science projects. Cutting the budget will also reduce the number of teachers. Teachers are important because they care about the children and our education, and they work hard to make sure we learn. Governor Schwarzenegger, show the teachers you care too. Think about it, Governor Schwarzenegger. The future of California is in the kids' hands. Don't let the governor terminate our future. Next is Devin Darden, 5th grade student at Smith School.
My name is Devin Darden. I'm in 5th grade and I go to Smith School. I will be going to Mendenhall next year and will be interested in playing sports. But if the budget cuts happen, there will be a good possibility that I and fellow classmates will not be able to pursue our dream. Earlier this month, at least 14,000 teachers across the state received pink slips due to the educational budget cuts. Thousands more classified school employees, from bus drivers to administrators, will likely lose their jobs too. Now is the time to stand up and say, I will not destroy our future. I will not devastate our education system, undercut our economy, and darken California's promise. Classrooms come first. We need to do everything we can this year to protect education funding and improve classroom results. Next is Don Wellen, Livermore PTA Council Legislative Chair.
Thank you, Devin. Good afternoon, senators and members of the press. Thank you to the parents, business owners, and members of the Tri-Valley community for making your attendance here a priority. Our strength is in our numbers, and your presence shows how strong we are and how much we care about the students in our community and the state. I am Dawn Whalen, an active participant of education issues as a PTA board member at Arroyo Seco Elementary PTA, Livermore Valley Council PTA, and Peralta District PTA. I am president of Arroyo Seco School Site Council and a board member of the Livermore Valley Education Foundation, and most importantly, a mother to a 1st and a 5th grader. Proposition 98 is a voter-approved proposition celebrating its 20th anniversary in 2008. Prop 98 amended the Constitution to guarantee a minimum funding level for education. In 2004 and 2005, the education community agreed to suspend $2.2 billion from our minimum to help decrease the state deficit of $9 billion. The 2008-2009 budget is proposing a $4 billion suspension to help with the $14 billion state deficit. We cannot continue to ask the children of California, to accept less than the constitutional minimum to help resolve a funding issue they did not create. Sorry, I'm passionate about this. Even with the minimum, notice I'm saying minimum guaranteed funding from the state, it is not enough to cover the cost for quality education in California. Local communities are asked to support education via school organizations, community education foundations, local parcel taxes, community donations, etc. Local districts are striving to do more with less from the state and the federal governments. Across-the-board cuts is not the way to balance a budget. It requires prioritizing spending, including evaluation of ineffective and non-essential programs. Education should not be a negotiable program when it comes to the budget. It is a constitutional guarantee for the state budget, and it is the priority to ensure a healthy future for this state. It was touted that 2008 was to be the year of education. Each year should be about education, which is the future of our cities, state, and the country. Let's make this the year of education by guaranteeing at least the minimum funding for education. Let's put action behind the Governor's Committee on Education Excellence report and the Getting Down to Facts report. Secretary Long, the Tri-Valley is willing to host meetings and town hall meetings to discuss education reforms and continuous improvement. Legislators, put into action education reform by agreeing on a framework for both funding and reform over a multi-year period. These reports have recommendations that can be implemented immediately with no cost to state or local budgets and can actually result in a cost savings in some cases. Citizens of California, you have a voice by registering to vote. Regardless of how you vote, let's make this the year of education for the children of California. Every citizen 18 years or older, register to vote. Registered voters, contact your legislators who represent you on these education issues in Sacramento. Let's leave no child behind. Guarantee our full minimum to allow us to reach the maximum potential in every student in the state of California. I'd like to introduce now Kathleen Reardon, the President-elect of Livermore Education Association.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming out today. We appreciate it. As a longtime 8th grade teacher, a parent, and a grandparent, I can clearly see that our Golden State faces a great challenge in balancing the budget this year. Without a doubt, though, any cuts that are made must stay far away from our children. California spends $1,900 less per student than the national average, so we are already seriously underfunding our schools, and we need billions more to ensure the opportunity for all of our students to meet the state's rigorous academic standards. Proposition 98 was passed 20 years ago to ensure a minimum funding for our schools. A $4.4 billion cut to Proposition 98 would mean laying off thousands of teachers, causing class sizes to swell and support staff to shrink. The governor's budget reductions would be a disaster to public schools and are inconsistent with the state's goal of improving education for all students. A state budget proposal that only looks at cuts is not a solution. We must face the fact that we must start increasing revenues so we don't go through this endless annual cycle of crisis budgeting, especially concerning our schools. It's not the right way to do business for our students. We need to support our students more in the years ahead, not less. They did not create this problem, and they don't deserve to have to pay for it. Thank you.
That's okay. Good afternoon. My name is Cindy Zecker, and I am an office manager at a school site in the Alameda Unified School District. I also am the Area C Director for the California School Employees Association. School employees, like myself, provide essential services for students, teachers, and administrators. We take care of campus safety, cleaning, attendance records, transportation, medication schedules, one-on-one tutoring, and other vital services that go into providing a high-quality education. A state budget cut of $4.8 billion is equivalent to cutting more than 137,000 school bus drivers, custodians, instructional paraeducators, food service workers, school clerks, maintenance workers, security officers, and other vital school staff. School employees have always been willing to make sacrifices for our students, but these cuts will permanently hurt our schools and our students. I feel like I'm chiming in with the other speakers this morning, whether it's a parent, whether it's a student, whether it's a community member. But I can surely say that I don't think any parents in our community want our teachers worrying about what to do if the faucets are leaking or the lights won't come on. We are the ones who make sure students are safe, well-fed, comfortable, and accounted for. We are the eyes and the ears of the school campus, the watchful adults allowing teachers to concentrate on teaching. Cuts to the magnitude the governor is proposing for next year will deeply affect our schools. This is why we are hopeful that the legislature will reject the governor's proposed educational budget cuts and uphold Proposition 98, the school funding guarantee. Voters passed Proposition 98 almost 20 years ago to ensure our students and schools get at least a minimum funding level from year to year. And the people reaffirmed their support for this important law during the 2005 special election. Now the governor needs to really listen to the people. Our children must always be our first priority. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jim Ott, the Livermore Chamber of Commerce.
My name is Jim Ott. I wear two hats today, one as the CEO of a regional financial institution here in Livermore. We have about 80 employees, and also as the past chairman of the Livermore Chamber of Commerce. I can't really add a lot to what has been said already with regard to the budget, but what I can underscore is the importance of education to our workforce, to our economy. A fully funded public education system is not only the cornerstone of our democracy, it's essential to the success of a dynamic economy. In fact, the vitality of California's economy depends on an educated workforce who can think critically and come up with creative approaches to today's and tomorrow's problems. That education, sure, it's in college, but it begins in the K through 12 system. When we reduce funding for education, we dampen the vitality of the economy. We dampen profits. Less profits mean less taxes. Less taxes mean less for the quality of our education and for the quality of our lives. So we've got to invest, and I know it's a term we use a lot, invest in our future, invest in our economy through education, but it is so, so true. I want to invite and encourage CEOs in our Tri-Valley region here in the state of California, CEOs and others in the business community to wake up and recognize the crisis that's facing us. If we don't begin to get funding for our education, we're going to see the impact in our economy. So I challenge CEOs to become engaged and to have a dialogue with our legislators. With that, now it's my pleasure to introduce Senator Tom Torlakson.
Thank you and good day. It's great to be here in Livermore at Emma Smith. The first sign I saw coming in said, "Keep the promise." Steve Raggett, I think a second grader at the school, held up that sign, "Keep the promise." And Devin, Max spoke to that. Emma Smith would want us to keep the promise. I'm old enough to be able to give a historical perspective. She was one of your great first teachers, and she was one that this school is named after, who believed in education, was also a community leader. It's great to be here having represented this community directly and personally because you care. You've passed Measure L, which allowed this wonderful plaza to be built and the refurbishment of this school and schools across Livermore to happen. The business community, the teacher community, the parent community has linked hands time and time again. And you passed a parcel tax, and I'll get to that in a minute. It's also a testimony, this school district and the team you have, to the promise of opportunity. It's especially a privilege to be here because my chief of staff for over 20 years in my political career, without which I couldn't get anything done, graduated from Granada High School, Gloria Ramil Omania. She was one of 7 brothers and sisters who came here from the Philippines, picked fruit, lived in other people's houses for years and years, and the school system enabled them to move up in life. Her brother became an Associate Supreme Court Justice in Hawaii, and equally honorable, one of her other brothers is a math teacher in this district. So again, the promise is about the opportunity. It's about the future. It's about the kids. And it is legal, it's in the Constitution, and it is political. And today we're saying, link arms with us, link arms with these parents. Governor, don't cut the nearly 15,000 teachers. Don't cut the classroom budget. Don't stop this opportunity and this promise. Don't terminate it, as Max told us earlier. Just on a historical perspective, when Senator Parada and I and Ellen Corbett were in teaching, he and I are a little older, Ellen's much younger than us, in the early 70s, we were up in the top of the nation. We were in the top 4 or 5 school districts in performance and what we offered and the quality to our kids and keeping that promise. We were also, coincidentally, go figure, we were also top in per pupil spending. Today we've slipped to 47th in per pupil spending. Today we are down, tumbling down to the bottom of the nation, 47th, 48th, 49th in a measurement of comparison on what we provide our kids in math skills, language skills, and science skills. This is intolerable, this is wrong, this is crazy. I'll end with saying that just earlier today I was at another elementary school. You don't have this kind of threat at this moment, but it's coming, as your parent leader and your principal, Nathanielson, has pointed out. It's coming in next year or the year after if we don't stop this hemorrhaging, if we don't stop these draconian cuts. You have passed a parcel tax of about $3 million. You worked hard to pass it. The governor's budget would cut $7 billion out. Earlier today at a school in Concord, Cambridge Elementary, I talked to 2 of the teachers who've gotten their pink slips, one changed careers to come into teaching because of her passion for young people and their dreams and the promise we have for them. And she just ran an outstanding class. The kids love her. She's dedicated. Lori Chia is her name, and the other teacher's name is Christine Forsyth. Let's live up to the promise of California schools that these teachers represent, not lay off 15,000 teachers, not subtract $5 billion from the budget. We should be adding $5 billion. We should be stabilizing education funding. So are we ready to link arms and keep the promise? Yes. Ready to stand up and fight? Yes. Thank you very much. We'll do it together. And now that other and younger educator teacher of the 3 senators here, all of us in education, you're a great senator for this region of the state and the Bay Area. Ellen Corbett has been a community college teacher and is also one standing steadfast with us on stopping these draconian cuts. Ellen Corbett, Senator.
Thank you very much, Tom. And I might be just a little younger than my colleagues, but at times like this, I think I feel the same age. Not that these gentlemen are old, but it is definitely... I'm sorry, I didn't say that right, did I? Okay, let me start over. I'm honored to be with my very experienced and handsome fellow senators today. But my point is, these are difficult times, especially for those of us who care so much about our children and care so much about their future. I think the hardest part about being here today is to hear the pain in the voice of the parents that have just spoken, and also the teachers and the employees and the principal who care so much about the quality of the education for their children. It is so appropriate that we're here and we can hear the voices of the children in the background with their laughter and their opportunity to be children and their opportunity to have a dream to be President of the United States, or have a dream to become a doctor or a lawyer, or have a dream to become a state senator. So what we do today is so important because this does affect their future. Just one moment that we take out of their time in the classroom will affect their future. Not only did we hear some pain today, but it was so wonderful also to hear Max and Devin. And I know you put those together yourself. I could see the handwritten notes, especially on Devin's statement. The promise in their voices, these bright young students who are going to be the future. And we talk about the future, but what we're really talking about is the now. How we affect these students, their ability to go on and fulfill whatever dreams they want to fulfill. The governor's cuts, $4.8 billion. We've already talked about that. What does that mean? Approximately 14,000 teachers received notices just in the past few weeks saying that they will not be able to come back to school. All of the other support employees that are involved, that is just the wrong thing to do. They will leave education. They will find other careers, and our students will suffer. I think one of the reasons why this feels so painful to me is I'm a mother too. I am a senator. It's a wonderful thing to be able to be a senator, but I'm a mom too. And when I see my son in the morning and I send him off to school, I have those same dreams and wishes that I know these parents have for their children. So it is a tough time to be senator. So let's talk about the tough times, but let's talk about what we can do moving on from this press conference today. The reason we're all here today is because we are going to send a message to the governor. These cuts are draconian. It's not the right thing to do. To say that education has to share these cuts, it's just not right. One of the parents already said, please contact your local legislators, contact your neighbors, let them all know how serious this problem is. Let them know we must push all legislators to understand we must find more resources for our children. Go beyond the Bay Area as well. Talk to your family members in other parts of the state. Talk to your organizations that you belong to in other parts of the state. And push the rest of those senators and assembly members to join us that are here and say, Governor and other members of the legislature, we're not going to pass a budget until we fulfill the promise that Senator Torlakson spoke about. We can do it. We've got the energy, and we will do it. So please continue your fight. And thank you all for being here today. It is my pleasure to introduce the next speaker. You already heard that he was a classroom teacher. We are so fortunate to have a classroom teacher as the president pro tem in these times. Senator Don Parada, it's a little hot up here. Senator Don Parada has been a warrior on these issues. He's been traveling up and down the state to bring attention to this issue. He really cares, and we're so glad to have him in our corner as a fighter on the issue of education. Senator Don Parada.
How are you? Cool glasses.
Show that to the senator.
Yeah, and I can read it too. Yeah, baby. My staff gave me something to say. I've already thanked Brenda. But I'd like to thank Ann White and Bill Dunlap and Tom McLaughlin for their support. And I want to reiterate something that someone mentioned a moment ago. Don't blame the school boards. Don't blame the administration. They're doing what the law requires. No one is taking any joy or delight in doing it. And unlike those of us in Sacramento that can always hide behind our desks or in our offices, there is no hiding here. People come down and they talk to you and they get angry because what's at stake is their children. Let me talk a little bit about what we can do. First of all, we have said, and I want to repeat, that the Democrats in the Senate will not leave Sacramento as long as there is one educational cut on the line. We're simply not going to do it. And the reason is simple. It's that for years, we have been inching towards this day, and it's finally here. We have been borrowing, we've been cooking our books. We're doing lots of things in order to justify the fact that in 1978, the Californians passed Proposition 13, which effectively changed the way schools were funded. And it shifted a tremendous authority to Sacramento, which I must say is never a really good idea. The problem is everybody who's in the legislature went to school. Not some successfully, but all of them went to school. And therefore, just like sports and sex, they think they're an expert. And so people always want to add on and give more and more responsibility to the schools to solve the problems of our society. And that's understandable because we're better than a school to communicate with youngsters about the importance of one thing or another in their lives. That's what makes not only teachers but classified school employees so important. That's why we can't afford to lose any of them. They have more contact with our young people today than most of our parents do, who are working hard in order to keep food on the table, a roof over their heads, and trying to build a better future for their kids than they have had themselves. In California right now, we are at a decision-making point. We have the highest cost of living in the country, and we are about to have one of the poorest standards of living in the country. And it's hard for people to believe that in California that can be possible. But it is beginning to happen. We have all said, we grew up, I taught it when I was teaching civics, the equalizer in America, the strength of the longest running democracy in the history of mankind as we know it, is education. Whether you're tall or short, smart, not so smart, an Italian, Filipino, anyone goes to a classroom, gets educated, and then takes care of him or herself and their families. Franklin Roosevelt said the best social program in the world is a job, so that people with the dignity of a job can provide for their own. All of that right now in California, and probably in the country, the way things seem to be going, are at risk. So we really have to do more than simply say we will endure another year. But as we go up and down the state, I know one thing. People are not there yet. We have been talking about the sky falling for so long that people are not paying attention. It's not that they're bad people. They've just heard it before. It's kind of like, you know, for years, Boston was supposed to be in the World Series. People almost gave up thinking that they would be. Whether it was the law of averages or God put the right hat on one year, they made it. People need to understand better what's going on. But it's not going to happen if we just talk about it. So what we're asking you to do today, and this is parents, teachers, classified personnel, students, we want you to sign up for a campaign called Classrooms First. We're using this. It's a real campaign. It's a political campaign. There's no two ways about it. Because every decision we make in Sacramento is political. It involves making a decision to affect someone's life. By definition, that makes it political. What we need you to do is join with us to take the fight and expand it. Respectfully, going to Sacramento and talking to us is a waste of your time. If you want to go talk to somebody, cross 580 and find Mr. Houston, Guy Houston. He's a Republican. He's also a graduate of my alma mater, St. Mary's. They've blotted him out on the sign, but now he's one of the guys that is going to have to vote for a balanced budget between making cuts and getting new revenues. We cannot cut our way out of this. And there is no Republican or Democratic way to educate a child. However, this is becoming rapidly Democrats against Republicans because we're talking about a balanced approach, and they are saying, we've taken a pledge, we will not raise taxes. Now, I don't think that pledge can continue. I also don't think Democrats ought to be beating up on Republicans and saying mean things about them because eventually you're going to have to sit down at the table and try to negotiate something. But a man that lives around here represents a community like the one that Guy represents, a guy who is running for the Board of Supervisors and would like a bunch of people to vote for him again. I think a person like that is very susceptible to an argument that we're going to need a balanced approach. We're going to have new revenues. We're going to have to make sure that we don't yank young teachers around every single year saying, come on in, become a teacher, and then we're going to pink slip you for the first 3 years. We were in San Diego last week, and there was a little cluster of young women on a knoll, a grassy knoll. And I could tell by looking at them that they had one thing in common, or two things. I knew they were teachers, and I knew they'd been pink slipped. So I went over and talked to them afterwards, and sure enough, all 6 of them have gotten pink slips, first and second year teachers, at an inner city school in San Diego, because naturally young teachers often have to go to those schools. 24 teachers at the school, 22 are pink slipped. Now, how do you make an effective argument? Hang in there. You know, go to get a job working at a bookstore or something until this thing comes around for you. Just doesn't work. So humanity has to respond to this, and what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to get the business and corporate community, the CEOs, in the game. Because while teachers are being pink slipped, the Silicon Valley is demanding that the federal government provide more H-1B visas so that they can import from another country workers that they can't find in America. When I was in San Diego, Qualcomm, which was one of the major forces in telephony, that's got something to do with the telephone, I think, they had 1,000 vacancies. 1,000 vacancies that they can't fill. So this fight is not only parents fighting for their children. We've got to expand it so that business is fighting for their survival, their livelihood. So when you sign this card up, you're not going to get any more junk mail than you would normally. But what you're going to do is you're going to be engaged. We're going to get appointments where people, maybe down the road at Oracle, and we're going to have parents go in and say the same things that they've said here. Teachers, young children, and try to engage Oracle in the fight. We're going to do that up and down the state. If that doesn't work, we're going to take a progressive step forward and do something else. But we can't, getting letters sent to politicians is not the way it's going to get done. You are in the choir right now. Tom, Ellen, and I, we're there for the duration. So what we need to do is to turn this fight out there. We've got to go out there and take this state back for the children. As the sign says, they didn't create this problem. And if there's going to be any validity in adulthood, and by the way, you're a grandparent. See, I tell people I'm a grandparent, they say, well, how many kids you got? They look at her and they say, you're kidding. No one's ever said that to me. I'm a oh, no, you're not. But this is our job. This is our responsibility. So in the days, this is the 40th anniversary of the assassination of Martin Luther King. And arguably, Dr. King was one of the people in this country that turned the tide, that brought civil rights from a phrase into reality. But it wasn't easy, it wasn't clean, and it made lots of people uncomfortable. We have been comfortable for too long. It's time to make the comfortable uncomfortable. It's time to make everyone engage in this fight. It's not just about the children and their parents. It's about everyone here. And we have to decide what kind of California do we want to live in. Do I get to visit my grandchildren in Alameda and Napa, or do I have to go to Boise or St. Louis? Because people are deciding today as I speak whether or not their future is going to be in the state of California. So together we're going to get it done. I ask you to join us a little bit. It's that pebble in the bucket. A little bit done by a lot will achieve where we need to be. So thank you all very much for being here. We will now have these cards circulated. Where do those come from? Now, there's 71 other people that would like to speak, but we're not going to let them. We're going to let everybody sign up a card, and if you don't get one of these, you can. And the website is a virtual campaign headquarters. You can go up there and find out exactly what's going on. I'm going to ask these two young people to give me their speeches. We want to put those on the website. In fact, I like everybody's speech here today, so we can put that up so other people can see what you're thinking and doing. Thank you.